Hi folks, welcome back to the Hoard. So what I want to do is finish up this log splitter today, and let me just go through some of the thoughts I normally go through when I'm messing with a project like this. First of all, you guys know that I got this thing, and when I got it the motor was just not in very good shape. So I put one of these $99 clones on it, got it running, used it once, and then let it sit idle for, I don't know, 10 plus years. And during that time that it was sitting idle, the fuel in the tank went completely bad. This tank isn't leaking, but it got really just nasty in it. In addition, it also see this brown stuff, very sticky, got into the fuel. You could see it down in there. This is where that little valve is for turning the fuel on and off. And though the float seems okay and the rest of the carburetor seems okay, my experience with these things, once they get gelled up like that, they're about done. For these clone carbs, you could clean them up, get them running again, but you find yourself the next time you want to use, in this case, the splitter, you know, a month or two from now, that you got to go back in and clean the carb again, and that's not where I want to be with this thing. I want it fixed once, and I want to be done. So with that, I keep these clone carbs floating around, and you just have to, if you want to buy them, you go to the couple of major websites. One's an auction one you just buy stuff and they typically deliver it to your house the next day, and you search GX 160, GX 200 carburetor, and you'll find them out there. From the major auction site, as a matter of fact, I ordered another 5 and they were $8 each. So you really got to think, hey, for $8, and by the way, and that's with postage, you got to figure, for $8, am I really gonna spend all kinds of time messing around with this carb, and the next time I need it, I'm gonna have to mess around with it some more. They do last longer, by the way, if you turn off the fuel and run them out. This particular engine, if you guys saw my first video, when I took the cover off, I expected to find a mouse nest. I did not find a mouse nest. Instead, I found a snake skin. So I guess where you have mice, you have snakes, and where you have snakes, typically you have mice, because snakes like mice. They're tasty. These engines are a natural for mice, because they go right in there and there's a nice spot for them to build a nest. After this gas tank went to the bad place, and the reason why this whole project's been delayed a little bit, you know, I found a gas tank, and look, I got a gas tank, and I found a valve, and you know, a fuel filter is not a problem, and a hose, and I was going to set it all up here and go with it that way. So I kind of collected the parts up and left them by the splitter, and okay, this is what I'm going to do. But then I changed my mind, and quite honestly, the reason why I changed my mind is I found a new gas tank that comes with a little filter thing, and it came with a gas cap, though I must admit the gas cap is pretty cheap. It feels like the edges are very, very sharp, and if one isn't careful, one could leave red stains behind. This is another one I had from another project. It's it's much better made, not nearly as sharp, so I guess I can use that. So let's say you got one of these engines and you're discovered that you did what I did, or perhaps you buy it this way. Assuming you could get an $8 carburetor and a $20 tank for 28 bucks, you can bring it back to life. Remember though, these engines only cost $100 new, so you got to be a little careful about how much money you want to put into them. Typically I find these things in a state of not running but complete. Typically they're $20 items at the flea market. So if you figure you're going to put a carb and a tank on them, if that's what it needs, assuming everything else is okay, and that's a big assumption, you're really not out all that far on the limb. You're about halfway there. And even if you get halfway there, right, you got 20 out on the engine and another 28, call it 30 on the parts to fix it, so you have 50 bucks in. Even if it turns out you can always recycle the gas tank and the carburetor for another project. I'm going to assume, perhaps I shouldn't, that this engine project isn't the only thing you're going to work on ever. Anyway, I'm going to try the tripod thing. Just, if you're taking this off, and I'm putting this carburetor in, see that little groove there? You kind of slide it till it lines up, and this slides right out. This is the connection to the governor. You see a little spring here on that. You just put it right in the hole, and there you are. The hose has to slide underneath this stuff. It is easier to kind of take all this stuff off and put the hose underneath, and there you are. You put the engine right back into place. You want to make sure though, as you route the hose, you do it in such a way that you're not going to melt the hose, because if you do that, you could end up with a hot time wherever you live. Once that is done, very easy, you slide the this is for the air filter assembly. You just got to make sure you line those up, slide it in, right, the hose right into here. A couple of bolts hold it right on. They are 10 millimeter. Put them on in such a way that you're not cross-threading anything. Right, 10 millimeter. Tighten them right up. The one-handed man here. Okay, that easy. I always recommend testing to make sure these things are functional, right? It's moving the throttle. And the reason why you want to do that is you don't want to fire it up, have it lock, pin the throttle, and you get this horrible surprise when your engine has a tragedy. Alright, so we have the carburetor on. I already put some gas down into the carburetor. The switch is on. I'm just going to do a quick start. Let's turn that on. Choke is on that way. Now I don't know if this thing is going to be a happy cold starter or less than a happy cold starter. This is why I don't use a tripod. Wherever you put them, they seem to always get in the way. So yeah, I'm not sure if there's going to be a happy cold starter or a difficult cold starter, but let's give it a shot. right on. All that's good. So I obviously got it running. What I'd like to do is demonstrate how beautifully it splits wood. And let's try to get all this extra stuff away from the moving machinery, because that's never a good thing. If anybody's after these bottles, they are known as tattoo bottles, and I guess they're for kind of washing the area as a tattoo is applied. Here we go. So that goes there. I'm just assuming it's behaving a little bit fussy because I don't have the air cleaner on it. Hey, not bad for a lefty, huh? These are, I'm using a an American blade Phillips, and these appear to be the Japanese blade type Phillips. And you say, what's the difference? The difference is, see all this length here? The Japanese stuff, the Phillips, is shorter, so it's kind of, you kind of have to wangle it a little bit. I'm going to finish putting this together later on. I just kind of want to do a quick demo for you guys. Put the air filter in. Yeah, some engines are not at all fussy about running without an air filter, and some engines are a pest. This one appears that it wants to be a pest. Fuel is, I believe that's on. And I kind of let it sit around. So what I might, should be getting gas. It is running. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take I put this carburetor on and I got it started, then I kind of let it sit around. So it might have gotten some water into the bottom of it. So I'm just going to drop the bowl real quick. And I'm going to finish putting it together again. That way this video does not get too crazy long. Yeah, when I'm done with this thing, it's going to be back to its OEM goodness, if we want to call it that. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do to really keep mice out of it. That's always going to be a bit of a pest, because even when the tank's on, there's plenty of room for them to crawl in there. Obviously a whole snake crawled in there. The snake, I would say, was probably 3/4 of an inch round, maybe an inch around by the skin it left behind. So there's quite a bit of space in there. You know, you can get in there. For a snake, it's a nice thing too, because it's on its way out of that tight space. It could shed its skin. Yeah, Harvey's not medley. I don't particularly care for snakes. Not that I'm afraid of them, but I don't particularly care for them. I'd rather they stay on their side of the street and I'll stay on mine. Thank you. Alright folks, next time you see this, it'll probably be part of another video, and I'll get it fired up and run it back and forth. Once again, it is a new carb. I've only put gas in there once, but I've had it sitting around, and you know, a little water could have found its way into the bowl. Normally this is how they behave. They'll start and run for a couple of seconds, start and run for a couple of seconds when you have water in the bottom of the bowl, depending on how much gas is getting up into the carburetor, which lets it run. And then you know, as it's shaking and all, it takes a little water and it stalls and so forth. So it's behaving like, once again, water. So I'm just gonna drop the bowl, get the fuel out of there, and get back to it. All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this this video. I want you all to keep your feet down, keep your heads up, and please, please get out there and enjoy each and every one of your days. Bye now, folks.